All right, good morning, guys. We're going to do a middle of the market day video, and this might be the only video I put out today covering the general markets. If we don't get any technical changes in the stock market when it comes to the charts by the end of the day, then this will be it. So here we go, triple Qs. Oh yeah, by the way, hit that thumbs up real quick if you're watching this. I do appreciate that. All right, triple Qs. All right, so we've got resistance here, 280.40 is where I have it marked out, and we're basically just chopping within that range. So what's still in play, if you look, we still have negative divergence is still in play here. You can see on the hourly, I kind of have it marked out right here where we made a higher high just the other day, and we made a slightly lower low on the momentum indicator. See the peak right there where my cursor's at, and that was on a higher price. So that was negative divergence. Momentum was moving away from price. Price was moving up, momentum was starting to fade. That's what that says. So we're seeing kind of a continuation of that near-term chart pattern where we're seeing, you know, momentum is still kind of struggling, and we're just kind of chopping around between this 280.40, and then really support is about 275, and we're just kind of stuck in that range, right? So we'll watch those trend lines, those support and resistance levels to figure out where the market's heading next. We obviously had a big bullish divergence in the past on this downtrend right here. We started to put in this bullish divergence, and that's what I have marked out down here. So these were divergent lows right here, good opportunities to potentially go long, and they've played out for, you know, a move up. You know, really from the low down here, we've had a move of about 8.8% to the upside. So that might be about all that this pattern, this bullish divergence is good for. We'll just watch these near-term levels. SPY. Same deal. We've got some support right here at 339.20, and I think near-term resistance is 342.60, and we're just kind of stuck in this area. So we'll watch those levels. You know, negative divergence is there. You can see it where, especially a little more pronounced today, where you have here and then the peak right here. So we had a price, you know, we made price here with a higher momentum, and then this peak right here, which is a little slightly higher price on a little bit less momentum. So starting to roll over, but it's nothing, you know, really, it's not really standing out, but it is there. So again, we'll watch the Qs. I think that'll be a good tell for where this thing goes. IWM, right at the top of its resistance zone right now. Resistance right here in IWM is sitting at about 159.60, and as I roll out this purple line, you can see, if I go to the daily, it's a little more clear. We've had a lot of reactions around this level of 159. You know, there's one, two, there, it held as support there, it held as resistance 3, 4, 5, 6, held as support through here. And zooming in again, resistance. So we've run up to that right there. If we get a slight marginal pop higher and then it starts to roll over, that will be a divergent high. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. A little pop up here and possibly up to this 166. You know, we've got a gap trying to zero. Here's a gap back here that has not been filled yet. So I'll pop up to that 166, or well, it's about 160, yeah, 166.38. I'll pop right up into that area. If it happens soon, will be a gap fill. It'll be at resistance and a negative divergent high. So that would be the area, the best area to potentially start a short position, but gotta wait for that. So kind of watching that one. That might be a good one. Nothing's really changing gold. It's just kind of trading in the same area as yesterday. Just chopping around resistance. So this is the area where I believe it will fail and start to roll over, heading down to 1790. And then at that point, we'll see. You know, I'll probably potentially going to flip bullish on gold at that point. So I've really only been bearish gold since, you know, up here at these prices around $2,000. Up here is where I turned bearish, and I've been bullish gold for years. So XLV, you can see we're just tagging resistance right up here, this trend line, which is the former flag. I think this is the end of the road for XLV, and it's going to start to roll over and head lower. We got a divergent high as well. Here it is right there. There's your negative divergence, and you've got prices making higher highs right there. So divergent high right into resistance, trend line still holding. I think it rolls over. Could tag this trend line a little bit more, but ultimately I think it's going to roll over and head down to 79, or sorry, 96, 97, sorry. And I get that from the daily, and you can see it's right there. There's 97, looks to be the near-term support. XLF. I got short this one yesterday. I covered it already. The reason why is I always short right near pivotal levels, so I'm either going to be wrong or right, but if I'm wrong small because I'm right at that level. And this was the gap fill. So here on the hourly, 24.66, that's about where I shorted it at. I was expecting it to kind of pop above and then fail. Still running higher, still moving higher. So a failure below that 24.66 level, a nice solid hourly close below, and I could always re-add back in. But for now, I just covered it. Took a very, very small loss, and waiting for further signs that this is the top. As of right now, I don't quite have it. There is no negative divergence. There's, momentum is continuing to the upside. Price is continuing to the upside. So, we close that one out. DraftKings continues to work to the short side. And we saw that, I saw that this one was breaking. Nice, clean, negative divergence. It's been intact, and we've just been back testing the broken trend line. So here on the daily, you can see, it's more, actually it's cleaner on the hourly. You can see this trend that we've been walking up, broke trend right here, and then did, a series of back tests. We've now started to break down in a nice bullish flagging pattern. So here's your flag pull, which is the initial impulsive break. Then you flag out, and then you break down out of the flag. So near-term target for this thing, I think we'll find some support around 55, 56, 55, 60, somewhere right in there. And so that's where I think this thing's heading in the short term. So it's continuing to sell off and look weak. In the longer term, I think this thing's probably going a lot lower. We have on the daily chart negative divergence. This is even, large negative divergence, really. We got one right here as well. So here's your high. Here's your high of the momentum indicator. And then you made a higher high right here, but momentum was less. There was less enthusiasm up at these prices. So that tells you that this larger pattern could play out for a larger move to the downside. Even though we might find some support around 55, 60, bounce around a little bit, these larger divergences say that will be a temporary bounce or reaction, and then we'll continue lower. So this continues to work. We'll continue to monitor this one. All right, Tesla. I got all kinds of lines going on, but I'm going to get rid of some of these. This one we can get rid of, and we'll get rid of this one here. Okay, so here's what we got. Uptrend line right here in Tesla. Seems to be a valid trend line so far. And as you can see, we broke the trend line right here, and we've just been drifting sideways. There hasn't been big selling, but there hasn't been really any buying, and we're just continuing to kind of drift away from the trend line. I think this is gonna gap down, and that's how the downside is going to be set in motion. And so that's what I continue to look for. Here on the hourly, you can see we're kind of drifting away from the trend line. If they pop and recover it soon, then it could be a bear trap. But if they're not able to do that, then I suspect we're going to gap down one of these days. Right now, trendline support is sitting up there at 437.24, and it's ascending, which is resistance at this point. So we could run up and tag it as resistance, and we'll just watch how it reacts if and when it does. Okay, so Tesla, again, just kind of drifting sideways, so we'll watch that one. I think a gap down's coming for it, but this can be a tricky one, so we do have to continue to watch it. NVDA here, the main trend line that I'm watching, we had this bearish rising wedge that was put in place, and we've got support all the way back here from March. We've just been walking up that support. It broke that support right here back in early September, and then it's just been back testing. So you can see back test 1, there's another back test cluster right there, and then it started to sell off, and then it's coming back in for another back test. So another back test, if we can get it up in 5, depending on when it gets there, up around the $600 range, maybe even put in a slightly new high above this previous high right here, of 589.10. That, if it happens soon, it would probably be a divergent high with a back test right at resistance. That would be a really good level to short this thing. Netflix here. Netflix just continues to walk up this trend line. If we go to the daily here, here's your trend line going back to January of 2013 on the daily. So the bull market, essentially, of Netflix. And you can see we've just been walking up that. Now, we briefly broke down back in 2019. We broke down, but it's recovered that trend line, and convincingly. So you can see the recovery, and it's tested it and held. So in my mind, Netflix just continues to be in a bull market, and that's what I see on that one. It could come down to, tag the trend line from where it's at now down to there would be about a 7 or 8% drop. But I don't see anything on the hourly that tells me it's going to sell off. There's no negative divergence right now. It's just, positive momentum, positive price action across multiple time frames on this. Philip Morris here continues to work. We're kind of flagging a little bit right at this level that I had marked out, 76.20, but nothing that looks like it's going to turn down. So I pointed this one out a while ago, back down here down around 73.57, and was buying it down there when it had bullish divergence, positive divergence basically. And so far since that low, it's moved up about a little over 3.5%. To the high, it was almost 4%. And I think this will continue higher, looking for the next level up here at 77.50. PHM, Pulte Homes, continues to kind of walk up the trend line. And I think it's going to run out of steam here pretty soon. But again, it just really hasn't gone anywhere over the last couple days. And so we just continue to kind of walk up the trend line here. Here's your trend line going back to the April lows. Support, 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 support. You can see it held support even here. The green candle sliced through it, but it closed way up here. So it was just an undercut, and then the buyer stepped in. So that's still support. Then you break trend here, resistance, and resistance again right here. So it's holding as resistance as it's backtesting. I'm expecting, this to start to work its way lower. A new lower low would probably do that on this trend, so maybe a breakdown of 46.57, nice hourly close below that would probably set this thing in motion to the downside. Carvana, I told everyone I took a small short on this yesterday, and so far it's working out. Continues to, it's not gonna react instantly, but still below resistance. You can see here on the daily, here's your uptrend on Carvana, broke trend, backtest, and backtest. And I expect, we can backtest again some more, but I do expect us to roll over and fill this gap at 173.80. So that's the trade on that one. PAAS. This one, you've got this little uptrend line on the hourly. We're just kind of walking up. It's starting to break down. So watch to see if this gets impulsive. If this is an impulsive breakdown, then that should be, set PAS in motion to the downside. Ultimately, I think we're heading down to this 26. We'll probably have a slight reaction again at 30.50. That's the previous support line that I covered my short position at right there. It's then run higher. Or if it's going to hold here, then look for this gap fill up here at 34.60. If it gap fills anytime soon, it's going to be a divergent high. You can see we've got some negative divergence starting to build. So if it pops up and hits that, fills the gap with negative divergence, that's most likely going to be the end of this kind of counter trend bounce. And then most likely we roll over and run down towards 26. 26 for me is going to be the end of the road for this one. And when it comes to shorting it, I will most likely look for long precious metals trades when we start to get down in those areas, depending on where gold bullion's at. But that's what I see, guys. So I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you. Catch you guys on the next one.